you can literally rent one bedroom at a time. What's up, guys? In this video, I want to make sure that I give you some practical things that you can implement right away, like basically right after this video, and for you to be able to implement it and put your house, your home on Airbnb. So it's important to focus on the main thing that you want to get out of this process. So number one is you have to understand if you want to be doing this full-time versus part-time. So here's what I mean by that. Now, if you have a job or if you're a business owner, regardless where you are in your life cycle, sort of say, you can be having your house rented on Airbnb in literally probably like 15 minutes. Maybe let's call it 30 minutes to just have it all together, right? Now, there are some things that you want to check out before you do that. You want to be aware, of course, of regulations of your city, regulations of your neighborhood, and a bunch of other things like that. But it's important to, especially if you are, if you are living in a condo, or if it's an apartment complex and they have some rules on their own, you could be basically starting in the next like 15 to 30 minutes on just renting your own bedroom. So doesn't matter, of course, you have to take a decision if you want to do this full time or you want to do this just part time. Now, full time means that you'll have to basically either sublet a home or buy a property or just literally buy a new property, either having to fix it or even if you buy it and it looks already good, you just have to furnish it and then put it up on Airbnb. But that's a decision that you have to take in consideration and understand like where you are in your journey right now, where you are in your life cycle, and how you want to go about this. Now, the reason that I decided to even do a video about this is, number one, I've had a couple of my own Airbnb guests that were asking me questions. Like they were using the app to to book a place for them to actually stay, but they never use it themselves to rent one of their rooms or run it, one of their entire houses. So that was number one. And number two, I recently did a story on my Instagram account talking about some of the improvements that we were doing on one of our Airbnbs. Now, the way that we decided to do it is kind of somewhere in the middle of this. The reason that I say that is so we put out the whole property, like every time when we get a new property, when we buy a new property, we furnish it, we fix it, we paint it, we do it nicely, and then we put everything, like all the amenities and everything that the house needs, and then we rent the whole thing on Airbnb. We don't just do one room at a time. The reason for that is we were able to charge way more by doing that, and I'm going to show you some screenshots in a different video on how exactly this play out. And basically, in like the first 6 months or so, the house was already making close to 60K in total revenue. So the reason that I said we are somewhere in between these two is I run my own businesses, my wife has her own businesses, and this one is just kind of in between, but it runs almost on autopilot. Now, I hate the phrase passive income in this scenario because of course you have to put a lot of work up front. Now, when I say a lot of work is you have to make sure that you search for the best property. You have to do your due diligence to make sure that the property has the potential. Like, here's what I mean by that. Yesterday, my wife sent me an incredible property in New Hampshire, which is about 40 minutes away from where we live in Boston. And the property was just like superb. It had a pool. Everything was like the backyard was huge, an incredible place, completely remodeled, and with everything that you can imagine in there, and at a pretty, at a fairly good price. But then I did my research, and what happened was the property didn't have a lot of potential for the zip code and for the place that it was positioned. Like the zip code and the cities around it were just like the maximum amount that people were charging over there. I'm not saying that you cannot beat the rest of the properties that you're competing with. What I'm saying is you have to really do your due diligence first and understand like what's the market telling you before you jump all in into something that may not bring you the ROI that you were expected to bring. So that's why I say that we are somewhere in between. And that's totally cool. If you may be at a job, maybe your house, maybe your wife has a full-time job already, and now you guys just want to make some extra money on the side. This is an incredible opportunity for everyone out there, regardless of literally what are the countries that you live in, like the cities, the zip codes. As long as you're doing the research first, you'll be able to make it happen. So you can literally rent one bedroom at a time. You don't need to rent the whole house. Like you can literally put one bedroom. You can have, I've seen places that have the living room. So I recently had a trip to LA, and my wife was looking on Airbnb to book a house for us. And literally, there are like a lot of people, they're just renting their living room with a pull-out couch. Like people are fine. The reason that works is, we're a human being. Not everybody is fancy and looking for some fancy location to live in when you just travel in a place, maybe business meetings, maybe just meeting some friends, and you just need an affordable way of staying for maybe, 1, 2, 3 nights, doesn't really matter. So you can have your bedroom, you can rent your living room, you can rent your backyard if it's just for a barbecue. I've seen that too. So a lot of things are possible. You just have to make your priorities and understand like, okay, this is what I want to do. Is it possible? What is the thing that actually can work? So you can decide if you want to rent your bedroom, a living room, your backyard, or the full property, right? And I know my handwriting is awful, so don't pay attention to that. Pay attention to the value that comes out of it. So I took this approach, and we've had the first property was completely rented, literally from day 2 of listing the property on Airbnb. We had our first guest. Now, I'm going to be doing other videos on the mistakes to avoid because those are huge. The first night was a complete failure for us because the guys rented. They did a party there, so we weren't aware of how the stuff works. Neighbors were pissed. The police came around 4 a.m. or so, but that's for another video. Just want you to be aware of the mistakes that you can avoid. So that's in a different video in this series. But the full property has the potential to bring you the most earnings every single month. So our first property now generates roughly between $7,000 to $10,000 every single month, literally almost on autopilot because it's a cleaning team that goes there every time when the guest leaves. They have a sheet with a PDF with everything that they have to follow, like all the things that have to be refilled, like the water, the towels, like where to do laundry, how to place different things, how to move the furniture if needed, and all that stuff. So the full property has the most potential to bring you the most revenue back, right? You have to understand when you do just one bedroom or just one living room or your backyard or whatever, you can't really compete on anything else other than the price. Now, however, if your bedroom, your living room, your backyard, they're all furnished nicely and in a way that really attracts people, and you know what to put in your title and what to put in your description to attract people, and you make it a real offer instead of just competing on price, that's definitely something that you should pay attention to. But it's important to know the difference between them. And I've seen people that have the full property on Airbnb, but what they do is they still rent separate rooms. Now, the problem that you're going to encounter in there, and of course, there are pros and cons, because you can probably be booked on the master bedroom 30 days in a row, but have the second and the third bedroom not booked at all because people don't feel comfortable booking the property with other people inside. So the problems with that could occur over there is, you run into issues with parking, you run into issues with the way that people get in the house, even though you kind of have to change the code after every guest. And when you do that, that becomes a problem because if the first guest that books your full bedroom stays there for a week and the other guest that just books one of the bedrooms on the second floor, for example, they only spend there 2 days. Now it becomes a really, a pretty difficult situation in between. So when I say full property, I mean literally the full property. Like, for instance, today we have Travel Channel, which they film a series of, I think it's called Dead Series. It's a horror movie. So they shoot the whole day, they have a complete scene over there. And, they brought cameras and all that stuff. So that's pretty exciting. I'm going to probably be posting a vlog about that. But nonetheless, it's important for you to understand that when you have the full property, you have different type of people that would look to book. So for instance, if you just have one room that is $50-$60, everyone can afford to book that, which can become a problem in the long term. Now, when you have the full property, not everybody affords, $300 a night, but you have families, you have groups of 10 people. As long as you make sure that in the description you list what are your rules, like the house rules, and how you allow, like what are the things that you allow them to do. The full property has the most potential because you can think about $50 out of one bedroom versus $300 versus the whole property. If it's 20, let's say 20 days a month being booked, well, all of a sudden the full property can bring in $6,000 and more as opposed to just one bedroom. But in that scenario, you just want to know, okay, what are you looking to do? I'm looking to just make some extra income. Cool. I'm just going to have one of my bedrooms. And you have to understand, are you okay with living with strangers? Are you okay with having people, get in your house and giving access to your kitchen and giving access to, if you have to share some of the common areas, like the living room or bedroom, not the bedroom, but the bathroom or the kitchen. Like you have to be okay with those things if you just rent one bedrooms or if you just rent the living room or if you just rent the backyard, whatever the situation may be. You have to know what Airbnb even means. And I should have probably started the video with this, explaining that Airbnb is basically an app that allows any consumer from any country booking a place. So Airbnb doesn't own any real estate, any properties at all, like from the entire globe. But they connect the people, so they have the infrastructure that, they have a large database of people, and they allow them to book rooms for different, times into somebody else's house, right, or property. Now, that person can be renting the entire house, or that person can be renting the entire bedroom. So Airbnb were really smart because they played a whole different game than a hotel industry because, as you can imagine, a hotel has to put a lot of money up front to build the hotel and get the land and have the construction in it and all that stuff. Airbnb doesn't have to deal with that. They just have to make sure that they connect the people with the homeowners. And on the other side, they have to make sure that they connect the homeowners with the people they're looking to book. So at the end of the day, Airbnb, it's basically a marketing tool if you really understand how the game plays. So they just, when the homeowner, Googles how to rent my house, most likely an Airbnb ad would show up, and then, or how to make money with renting my bedroom or whatever. And then when a consumer searches for places to rent in the Boston area, Airbnb would put an ad out there. All of a sudden, these two different audiences are combined, okay? So with that being said, now you have to take the next step, which is research. So the easiest way to do research is using Airbnb. The reason that I call it the research phase is you don't want to just jump in and buy a property, or you don't want to go and sublet another one on Airbnb before you do your research. So research means go on Airbnb and go in the zip code that you're trying to book a house and just see what are the prices. Like that's the first thing that you should be doing when you do your research. So type the zip code, maybe type the city and the state that you want to book a house, that you want to rent both. If you want to rent both of your, in both scenarios, your full property or just one bedroom or your living room or the backyard, and just look at the prices and see what is the price for a full property in Boston, what is the price for a one bedroom. in Boston, right? That's the first place that you want to do your research on Airbnb. Now, and another great tool that I use when I do my research on Airbnb properties is AirDNA. So airdna.com, it's basically a web-based app that allows you to see what are the projections, how many houses are actually, so it gives you a much more in-depth, description on how the Airbnb marketplace goes into that zip code, into that city, into that state, and gives you more detailed information about it. But if you combine both of them, like the actual Airbnb and AirDNA, you're gonna get the exact things that you need. So you'll know how properties are shown on Airbnb, and then when you go on AirDNA, you're gonna understand how people are renting it, like what's the amount for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedroom places versus just one bedroom in a shared location. So I'm pretty sure you get the point. So you can literally do anything that you want. The easiest way at first, if you're just trying to do some extra cash, especially for example, if you are a student or if you just want to make some extra cash again, you can rent one of your bedrooms and you can vet people on Airbnb as well. So you can make some rules in there that people are not allowed to book as long as they have a driver's license attached to their profile, maybe a profile picture, and maybe a 5-star or at least one rating from another host. So if you put those things in place, now all of a sudden people will not be able to just book instantly. They'll be able to have to message you and ask for that booking to happen on the app. All right, so it's very important to understand the differences. You can rent one bedroom, one living room, one just your backyard, or you can rent the whole place, which I would highly suggest because the potential to make money on this is huge and it's way different. And again, just think about it. If you would rent one bedroom, now if you do clean it yourself, if you don't plan to hire, if you don't plan to make this an actual business, and if you're just trying to do it part-time, you're probably just going to either have somebody in your family to just, or have somebody hourly to just help you clean the bedroom after the guest it's gone. But you get the point. If you charge, $50 for a bedroom, you won't be able to pay a cleaner $70 to clean that bedroom, right? You get the point. As opposed to when you have a full property, if you have a family, a 10 people group that books the property and now they stay there for 5-6 days and they pay you $1,500 to $2,000 for those 6 days, all of a sudden now, of course, you can afford to pay a cleaning crew to come and clean the place out so you don't lose time on those tasks, right? So guys, if you like this video, let me know in the comments and don't go anywhere. Start watching the next video coming up right here on my left, where I talk about the Airbnb business model. So again, don't go anywhere. Start watching the next video coming up right here about the Airbnb business model and how you can do this full time. I'll see you there.